A millionaire CEO. Needs a fake girlfriend to impress his ex, but he never expected he'd fall in love. Under the relentless glare of press lights and the sterile chill of the downtown conference hall, Nathan Hale adjusted the cuff of his suit. Eyes steady, he stood behind the podium. Reporters packed the room, all hungry for sound bites ahead of Hale Media's 10th anniversary gala. Questions flew like arrows about sponsors, projections, celebrity guests. He handled them all with his usual polish, barely blinking until she walked in. Isabel Laurent entered like she only oxygen in the room, elegant in crimson, lips curved in a smile that could cut glass. She took her seat beside Nathan as planned and leaned into her mic with perfect control. "I will be attending your event, of course," she said, her voice cool and practiced. "It will be delightful to see what a decade of independence has done for you." She paused just long enough to draw the room in. "Perhaps this time you will bring a real girlfriend, not just another contract actress wrapped in sequins." Laughter stirred among the press. Nathan's lips remained frozen in a diplomatic smirk, but something in his jaw shifted. Isabel knew where to strike, and she always struck cleanly. After the press event, Nathan stood alone at the edge of the stage, watching Isabel glide away into the hall's shadows. His assistant Joel approached quietly, voice low. "She is baiting you again. She always does," Nathan muttered. "This time she will not win." That afternoon, Nathan found himself driving aimlessly through the city, tension still coiled tight in his chest. He needed air, space, something real. Without thinking, he turned onto a quiet side street in West Los Angeles, where aging sycamores arched overhead and buildings hadn't yet surrendered to glass and steel. He parked in front of an old ballet studio. The windows were coated in dust, the gold-lettered signage cracked and peeling, yet something stirred inside. He approached, drawn by movement behind the foggy glass. Inside, a woman in gray sweats was scrubbing the mirror with a cloth, her posture weary but poised. Then suddenly she paused, stood tall, and lifted her arms with quiet grace. In that fleeting moment, she was no longer cleaning, she was dancing. Nathan stood motionless, watching her back arch, one foot brush forward in a classic line. For a few seconds, she seemed to forget the world. Then just as quickly she stopped, dropped her arms and resumed scrubbing. He stepped inside, a bell chimed overhead. The woman flinched. "We're closed," she said without turning. "I am not here for a class," Nathan replied. She glanced over her shoulder, eyes weary. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot. Then her face was tired but striking, carved by something stronger than time, resilience. "You were watching me." "Not on purpose," Nathan said honestly, "but I could not look away." She frowned. "That is not as charming as you think." He offered a smile. "I am not trying to be charming. I am trying to make you an offer." Her arms crossed defensively. "I do not do private performances." "I do not want a performance," Nathan said. "At least not that kind." "Then what do you want?" "I need a girlfriend." Her eyebrow arched. "Excuse me?" "For one night," he explained. "Public. At a gala." A statement. She blinked at him. "Why not just hire a model?" "I could," he said. "But they are all rehearsed. You are something else." She huffed a laugh, skeptical. "You do not even know my name." "That is easily fixed." He stepped forward and extended his hand. "Nathan Hale." She looked at his hand, then back at his face. "Eva." "Eva," he repeated. "I saw how you carried yourself. I know a presence when I see one. That is what I need. I am not looking to be someone's prop. I do not need a prop. I need someone who can make them believe I am in love. And you think I can fake that?" "I think," Nathan said quietly, "you have lived through enough to understand what love should look like." Eva's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. "What's in it for me?" she asked after a beat. "You named the terms: payment, wardrobe, everything." "No kissing," she said. Nathan chuckled softly. "Not unless you change your mind." "That will not happen." He stepped closer, his voice quiet but steady. "I do not want someone to just stand next to me. I want someone who will make them believe I chose you because I could not help it. I want them to feel what I wish I had felt a long time ago. Can you do that?" For a long moment, Eva said nothing, then slowly she nodded, and just like that, a performance began, one neither of them expected to feel so real. It was well past midnight when Nathan found himself scrolling through his phone, ignoring unread emails and corporate reports. Instead, his screen was filled with ballet clips, blurry performances, quiet rehearsals. And in nearly all of them there was Eva. Her movements were precise, fluid, Her presence magnetic. One solo clip caught his breath. She had swallowed fire and tamed it. But for nearly 3 years, she had vanished from the ballet world. Curious, Nathan searched deeper. The headlines were harsh. City ballet prodigy suspended after accusations. Rock company. Whispers and winks, the Eva Lane scandal. And most damaging, seduction or strategy? Rising star linked to reporter in PR firestorm. He opened the article. A photo showed Eva at a dinner, leaning toward a man in a tuxedo, her hand lightly on his arm, her expression unreadable. The media labeled it seduction. But Nathan saw something else, fatigue, perhaps desperation. The article portrayed her as manipulative, suggesting she fabricated harassment claims for attention, accusing her of using the spotlight for gain, of being just another scandal chaser. But Nathan felt none of that. He saw a survivor. The next morning he found her on the rooftop. Eva was stretching by the railing, Los Angeles glittering behind her. She looked over as he approached, her gaze steady but tired. "You Googled me," she said. "I did," Nathan replied. "I needed to understand." She turned back toward the skyline. "Do you?" "Not entirely," he admitted. "But maybe you can help me." Eva sat on the platform, her voice low and even. "I was 23. I had leg roles people noticed that made me vulnerable." She paused. "The artistic director gave me the lead in the season closer. 2 weeks later he trapped me in a dressing room and made it clear he expected more." Nathan stayed silent, jaw-tight. "I reported it, they reviewed it internally, then they suspended me, said I was disrupting morale." She looked down at her hands. "I was young, scared. A reporter contacted me. I hoped someone would believe me. We met at a fundraiser. Someone snapped a photo. The next day the narrative flipped. I was the one using him for press." Her voice caught. "After that I was toxic. Sponsors dropped out, dancers avoided me. I did not quit dance, it quit me." "You survived," Nathan said. "I worked odd jobs, cleaned floors, tried to forget what it felt like to want something so badly it hurt." Nathan sat beside her. "You were not naive, you were brave. I believed the truth mattered. It still does." Eva turned to look at him. "Why do you care?" "Because when I met you, I saw someone who used to believe in something. I have a gala coming up, everyone will be watching. I want them to see you. They'll just see scandal. Then I'll help them remember something else, your grace, not their gossip." Eva stood, her movements slow but elegant. The wind stirred her hair. "And you think they'll listen to you?" "I think they will if they see what I see." She looked away, adjusting her shoe. "You do not know me." "Not yet," Nathan said, "but I want to." That night, Nathan sent a single clip to a choreographer he trusted, an old video of Eva dancing by moonlight. With it, he wrote, "Tell me this woman does not deserve another stage." Back on the rooftop, Eva practiced again. She moved with a silent strength, the quiet rebellion in every line of her form. And Nathan, watching her from afar, realized something profound. She was not waiting to be rescued, she had already saved herself. All he had to do was help the world see it. Eva had 3 conditions before she agreed to play the role Nathan proposed. First, no one was to know her real name. Second, no one from the ballet world could be involved in any press. Third, and most important, there would be no exploitation, no subtle digs at her past, no sly insinuations of redemption through romance. She would not be rescued, not this time. Nathan agreed. And so the transformation began. Eva spent the following week in fitted showrooms, learning to glide in designer heels, testing shades of lipstick she had once thought belonged to another world. Nathan accompanied her to fittings and immediate raining sessions, letting her decide what felt real, what looked right at first. She approached it like a role professional, detached, but over time, something shifted. She would reach up to straighten his tie just before a photo, smoothing the knot with a quiet precision. She never said anything while doing it, never looked at him, but Nathan noticed it was not performative, it was caring, simple, intimate in a way that felt strangely honest. In private, Eva sat by the rooftop window, scribbling notes on a yellow legal pad. It was supposed to be the fabricated story of how Nathan and Eva met, how they fell in love during a charity gala in Rome, but her pages were scattered with strange detours. "Why did you leave architecture school? Do you ever miss quiet mornings? Was your father kind?" Nathan found the pages once left on the bench outside the studio. He read them silently. When Eva returned, she froze. "You are writing a script," he said, handing it back. "Or are you actually curious?" She took the paper, not answering. Later that evening, while sitting beside each other in the back of a town car, Nathan watched as Eva leaned against the window, staring up at the sky. "You look at the stars a lot," he murmured. "They do not ask questions," she replied. Still, Nathan began to answer the ones she had written. He told her about college, about building Hale Media from his dorm room, about the mother who never understood his drive, and the father who never forgave it. He even admitted to nights he still woke, thinking of all the people he had outpaced and left behind in Avalis, and not as a character studying a role but as someone beginning to care. The night of the gala arrived like thunder on the horizon. The venue glowed with chandeliers and champagne celebrities mingled with media titans, and in the middle of it all stood Eva. Radiant in a midnight blue gown, her back was straight, eyes calm. She moved like royalty but without arrogance. Her poise was natural, not rehearsed. She was a mystery. People leaned toward Nathan, could not take his eyes off her. When they entered the ballroom, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Cameras turned, reporters leaned in, and somewhere near the bar, Isabel Laurent narrowed her gaze. She had come prepared to mock Nathan's newest PR romance. She had not expected Eva Lane. They met later in a hallway outside the main ballroom. "Of all the names you could have dusted off," Isabel said with a tight smile, swirling her wine, "you chose her." Nathan said nothing. "She is a disaster waiting to happen," Isabel continued. "You remember what she did to herself, do not you? One whisper to the right journalist, one photo in the wrong hands, and boom, she is a headline. And you, my dear, are collateral." "She did not do anything but speak the truth," Nathan said, voice low. Isabel raised an eyebrow. "You do realize she seduced a reporter, right?" "I was in the room when they pulled the article. It was damage control." Nathan stepped closer. "You were in the room when they buried her, not when they heard her story." Isabel studied him, something flickering in her expression. "You are serious about her." "I am serious about not letting another woman be destroyed for someone else's comfort," Nathan said. "And Eva Lane is stronger than you ever gave her credit for." Isabel's smirk faltered just for a second. "You are going to regret this." Nathan's gaze was steady. "Only if I do not stand by her." Back inside, Eva stood beneath a skylight, her face lit in golden tones as Nathan walked back to her. She looked up just slightly, like she always did, toward the stars, and in that moment Nathan realized she was not acting anymore. And neither was he. The elevator chimed softly as Nathan guided Eva toward the rooftop of Hale Media's headquarters. It was late past midnight. The city below was a sea of glittering lights and distant sirens. Eva had never been up this high. Not since she'd left the stage. There was something sacred about the silence between them as they stepped onto the rooftop. But what caught her breath wasn't the view. In the far corner of the rooftop, under a string of hanging lights and the open sky, stood a platform. Small, square, made of smooth polished wood. On its edge leaned a tall mirror, clean and framed in brass, and beside it, on a folded velvet cloth, sat a pair of pale pink pointe shoes. Her shoes. Eva froze. "I found out the studio where you used to rehearse had closed," Nathan said softly. "So I built this." She turned to look at him, emotions tangled in her chest. "Why?" "Because I see you," he said, "not as a headline, not as someone who survived something ugly, but as someone who creates something beautiful. You are not a victim, Eva, you're an artist." The wind stirred her hair, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. Eva walked toward the platform slowly. Almost reverently she knelt beside the shoes, her fingers brushing the ribbons. "These are mine," she whispered. "How did you?" "I asked around quietly. Your old wardrobe mistress had them stored in a box." Eva sat on the edge of the wooden platform and lifted one shoe to her lap. She ran her hands over the frayed satin, the faint scuffs on the toes. The sight of them opened something in her she hadn't dared to feel in years. And then, without a word, she slipped one on. It took her 10 minutes to stretch, to remember how to point, how to rise gently to demi-pointe without shaking. Nathan's at a short distance away, silent, letting her move through her own rhythm. Her first arabex was tentative, her balance rusty. But she moved. She danced again. That night became a ritual. On nights when the events were over, when the gala lights had dimmed and the cameras were packed away, Nathan and Eva would return to the rooftop. Sometimes she danced, sometimes she just stretched, sat, and spoke. Nathan often brought a sketch pad and he'd quietly draw her, sometimes just her feet in motion, sometimes her outline against the sky. "I used to sketch to clear my head," he said one night as he handed her a page. "Now I sketch because I want to remember." The page showed her mid-pirouette, hair flying. Eyes closed. Eva stared at the drawing for a long time, then smiled. One night she sent him a photo. It arrived just after midnight, a picture of her old pointe shoes resting on the floor beside her bed, the ribbons tangled but strong. The message read, "They're not torn yet." Nathan stared at it, his heart tight. He typed back, "Neither are you." She didn't reply, but the next evening she was already on the rooftop when he arrived. Shoes on, hair pulled back, waiting. And when she danced that night, she did not look at the stars, she looked at him. It began like most attacks do, quietly, almost surgically. A single blog post, a headline that popped up on a mid-tier gossip site, then spread like fire through social media echo chambers. From ballet to billionaire. Eva Lane's real comeback strategy. The article hinted at everything but confirmed nothing. It questioned whether Eva was using her connection to Nathan Hale as a stepping stone back into the spotlight. It dredged up old photos from a charity gala years ago. Eva laughing beside a journalist, hand lightly brushing his arm. It was enough. Within hours, Isabel had fueled the flames with insider quotes on several talk shows. She smiled into the camera, her voice syrupy. "I just hope Nathan knows what he's doing. Some people, well, they've always wanted fame more than anything." By evening, Ava's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. The worst came in the form of an email from the casting director of Requiem in Red, a contemporary ballet show she had long dreamed of joining. "Dear Miss Lane, we appreciate your audition. However, due to unforeseen developments, we are moving forward with a different candidate." No explanation, no room for appeal, just rejection. That night, Eva didn't answer Nathan's text. She climbed to the rooftop alone. The city below buzzed with indifference. Headlights flickered like stars. Too far to matters. He paced the small wooden platform Nathan had built. The only space where she felt like herself. She stood before the mirror he had placed weeks ago, its brass frame soft under moonlight. Her reflection stared back. Poised, broken, furious. Without thinking, she picked up a small ceramic paperweight from the edge of the platform and hurled it. The glass cracked in a jagged line across the middle, spidering outward. Moments later, she fell to her knees, sobbing. When Nathan arrived minutes later, he found her still there. Head bowed, fingers curled against the wood, breath catching in her throat like a song that refused to come out. "I can't do this," she whispered when she heard him. He knelt beside her. "Yes, you can." She shook her head. She collapsed into him and he held her close. Her tears soaked into his shirt. Neither of them said another word for what felt like forever. The next morning, Nathan made a move that would change everything. He canceled his afternoon meetings, called his media team, and by noon a press release went live on every major outlet. Nathan Hale, the man who rarely spoke about his personal life, stood before a wall of cameras and microphones. "You all know who I am," he began. "What you may not know is who she is." He paused, letting the silence stretch, the tension hang. "Evelyn is not a scandal. She is not a second chance I'm offering her. She is the one offering me a second chance to be more than a CEO who sells stories. She has talent. She has strength, and she is someone I admire beyond reason." He continued, his voice unwavering. "I did not fall for her because of a calculated image. I fell because she stood when others told her to kneel. I fell because even after everything, she still dares to dance." A hush fell over the room. That same evening, Hale Media uploaded the first teaser for its newest documentary project, Last Dance. There were no fancy graphics, no interviews, just black and white footage from the rooftop. Eva lacing her shoes. Eva stretching in silence, Eva falling then getting back up. In one haunting moment, she faced the camera. Sweat on her brow, voice low but clear. "I was never trying to be famous. I just wanted to feel the music again." The internet exploded, not with hate but with support. Ballet lovers, survivors, artists, women who had been told their voices were too loud or their ambition too sharp. Eva received thousands of messages. One simply said, "You danced for me too." She stood in front of the mirror again that night. The cracks still bisected her reflection. But she did not look away. She lifted her arms and she danced. Nathan had never been a man who let others fight his battles. And this time it was not just a battles. It was justice long overdue. While the press devoured the Last Dance documentary teaser, Nathan worked quietly behind the scenes. He hired a discreet team of investigators, lawyers specializing in workplace harassment, and a trauma-informed therapist to support any potential whistleblowers. Over weeks, Nathan raced back to the heart of Eva's fall. The man who had orchestrated her silence, Victor Kessler, the once revered artistic director of the City Ballet Company. Nathan's team uncovered more than just Eva's case. There were others, dancers who had quit without explanation, emails that had been deleted but recovered, contracts that included vague morality clauses, used to silence anyone who dared speak out. Nathan's blood boiled as the truth unfolded. When the internal report was complete, he called a press conference. The room was full. Reporters, cameras, legal observers, and Eva, sitting silently in the front row, hands clenched in her lap. Nathan stood behind the podium, his expression sharper than ever. Today we release the findings of an internal investigation into misconduct within one of the entertainment firms in which Hale Media holds minority shares. What we uncovered is disturbing but necessary to face. He paused. The man in question, Victor Kessler, abused his position, silenced multiple women, and destroyed careers under the pretense of artistic control. Eva Lane was one of them. A collective gasp echoed. This stops now. Nathan turned toward Eva, his voice rising with quiet power. No one can silence the voice of someone brave enough to speak the truth. Eva Lane is not only a survivor. She is a force, a beacon, and she deserves far more than an apology. She deserves the stage she was robbed of. He let the silence settle. Effective immediately, Hale Media is divesting all interests and entertainment subsidiaries linked to this history in their place. We are launching the She Speaks initiative, a non-profit legal and recovery fund to protect, support, and elevate female artists silenced by power. The room burst into applause. Flash bulbs went wild. David did not cry. She stood steady, eyes locked on Nathan. That night, the open-air amphitheater glowed like a dream. It had been built in just 2 weeks, an architectural marvel overlooking the LA skyline. Rows of seats stretched beneath the stars, and on stage stood a minimalist set, just soft lighting, white drapes, and a single wooden floor. No sets, no costumes, no orchestra. Just Eva. The performance was called Resonance. It was her story told through movement, silence, music, and pause. She began with her back to the audience, trembling hands by her sides, and then she moved. Sharp, raw, full of restraint and rage, she danced the silence. The shame, the erasure, but then something shifted. Her movements stretched, lengthened, her steps grew bold, elegant, defiant. By the final act, Eva spun beneath the stage lights like she was made of fire and breath. She did not dance like she was reclaiming something. She danced like it had never been taken at all. The final notes faded. The crowd rose. Thunderous applause, tears, and then, to everyone's surprise, Nathan walked on stage. He said nothing at first, then placed a hand gently over his heart. Eyes on her. You asked me once why I believed in you, he said, voice low but reaching every corner of the theater. It's because I have never seen anyone rise the way you do. You do not need the world to give you a voice. You already have one. He stepped closer. No one can make you fall, even not unless you believe they have the right to. She looked at him, open, overwhelmed, and for the first time in years she let herself believe she was no longer alone. The lights dimmed, the crowd roared, but the loudest sound of all was not applause, it was hope. Crackling in the air like the first note of a new symphony. The world no longer whispered Evelyn's name in scandal, now they spoke it with reverence. Her return to the stage had triggered something far greater than a performance. It had sparked a movement. Media outlets began calling her the Phoenix of ballet. Social posts trended not with scandal but with quotes from her final monologue. Critics declared her solo in Resonance as the most courageous performance of the decade. But more than acclaim, what Eva felt was something far deeper. She was free not just to dance, but to live unapologetically. She received offers, endless ones, brand endorsements, talk shows, even biopic deals, but Eva accepted only what aligned with her values. She spoke at universities, visited struggling art schools, and poured her energy into mentoring young dancers who had been made to feel small. She no longer needed to scream to be heard. Her grace spoke louder. Meanwhile, Nathan stood at a crossroads of his own. A major conglomerate approached him with $1 billion offer to buy out Hale Media and absorb it into their media empire. The deal would have cemented his name in the industry forever. The company's board leaned in, his advisors urged him to sign, but he did not. Instead, on a quiet Wednesday morning, Nathan called a press conference of his own. I will not be accepting the acquisition offer, he said simply. Gasps filled the room. Hale Media has never just been about profits. We believe in stories that matter. Voices that have been ignored, talent that deserves to be nurtured, not consumed. He paused, glancing at the back of the room where Eva stood, arms crossed, silent, proud. To that end, we are announcing the creation of a new space, the Eva Lane Institute for Performing Arts. A crowd erupted, Eva's mouth parted in disbelief. Nathan continued. There will be a sanctuary for dancers, musicians, writers, anyone who has ever been told you're too much or you're not enough. It will be a place where your art is safe, where your truth is honored. That night, after the applause, after the questions, after the lights dimmed, Eva found him alone in the rooftop studio, their sanctuary. The mirror had been repaired, her shoes were in their usual place, the sky stretched above them. Dark and vast and infinite, she walked toward him, not as a performer, not as a survivor, but simply as Eva. You turned down $1 billion deal, she said quietly. Nathan nodded. For me? He looked at her, stepping closer, his voice low and steady. No, not for you. She blinked, heart twisting. I chose this, he continued. I chose every second of this life, of this fight, of this truth, not because I had to, but because I could not imagine any other life. I did not give anything up, I chose everything because of you. He reached out, brushing her hair behind her ear, fingers lingering against her skin. Because you remind me who I want to be. Eva did not respond with words, she didn't need to. Instead, she stepped into his arms, where her heart had already decided to live, and the city continued to shine below them, quiet, eternal, and full of promise. A year later, the rooftop no longer bore the quiet of broken mirrors and whispered doubts, now it echoed with the laughter of children. What once had been a private sanctuary for pain and healing had transformed into something beautiful, an open-air rooftop stage lined with fairy lights and wooden benches, overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. Eva and Nathan had turned it into a training ground for young dancers, many of whom had once believed stages were not meant for them. Tonight was the first official performance of the Eva Lane Institute for Performing Arts, and while the crowd was small, just a handful of parents, friends and a few invited guests, it felt monumental. Eva stood at the edge of the stage, watching as a group of tiny dancers in flowing white performed the closing piece. Their movements were imperfect but fearless. She saw herself in them, not the polished ballerina she had once been, but the girl who danced in her bedroom to escape a world that tried to silence her. The music swelled, then faded, the final note held in the air like a breath. The children bowed, applause followed. Parents cheered, a few wiping tears, and then from the shadows near the back, Nathan stepped forward. He wore a tailored black suit, simple and elegant, but his eyes, those eyes were soft and sure, like a man about to take the biggest leap of his life. He climbed the small wooden steps to the stage, something hidden behind his back. Eva tilted her head, curious, unsure what he was doing. The children scattered gently, giving him space. Then he took a deep breath and held out a small velvet box. Everything else, the wind, the lights, the city noise, seemed to disappear. Nathan's voice was steady, but his heart was not. You once told me, he began, that you didn't need anyone to lift you, that you learned long ago how to rise on your own. Eva's breath caught. The memory was so vivid, her defiant words from a lifetime ago. On this very rooftop. Nathan continued, his voice thick with emotion. I never wanted to be the man who took your strength from you. I only ever wanted to be the one who stood beneath you, arms open, always ready to catch you if you fell. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, delicate but powerful, just like her, a tiny golden answer curved into the band. Her arms raised as if taking flight. If you let me, Nathan said, I want to spend every day cheering for you, holding your hand when you're tired, standing still when you need space, and lifting you if and only if you want me to. And when you leap, he whispered, I want to be the one lucky enough to be standing right below. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Eva stepped forward, one hand pressed to her heart. She did not speak. She only nodded once, twice, and then burst into tears. Nathan laughed through his own, slipping the ring onto her finger as the children clapped again, not quite understanding what they were witnessing but sensing the magic of it all. Later that night, after everyone had left and the lights had dimmed, Eva and Nathan stood at the edge of the rooftop, looking out at the city they had learned to call home. The wind danced around them, carrying the scent of jasmine and promise. Nathan unwrapped an arm around her waist, and Eva leaned into him. Her hand, now adorned with the ring, fit perfectly inside his. They stood there for a long time, watching the traffic, the lights, and the quiet lives unfolding far below. Then Eva stepped back. With a smile that only he ever got to see, she raised her arms and, under the moonlight on the stage that once saved her, she spun a single perfect pirouette. When she stopped, she landed not alone, but in the arms of the man she had once thought was nothing more than a performance. They kissed not like a grand finale but like a beginning, in the rooftop. Once a place of silence became the highest point of a love story that was never meant to be pretend. If this story stirred your heart, reminded you of the quiet power of resilience, or made you believe in love that grows from truth, not perfection, then we invite you to stay with us for more at soul-stirring stories. We believe in tales that don't just entertain but heals. Stories where strength wears ballet shoes, where love grows in rooftop studios, and where redemption is always possible. If you felt something real today, click subscribe, give us a like and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of soul-deep storytelling. This is more than just a story. It's a reminder, you are not alone, your voice matters, and your next chapter might just be your bravest yet. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.